One of the most recognized slogans or mottos in medicine is the phrase, "First, do no harm." Despite its familiarity, its meaning may not be entirely clear. The initial word, first, might suggest that it is giving a sequence of procedures. First you do this, second you do that. In this context, however, first is elliptical for first of all things, or phrased in a more contemporary way, above all else, do no harm. Without analyzing this slogan further, it begins to look like a moral claim or commandment. In fact, it points to the first ethical theory I want to discuss, one that focuses not simply on harms, but on outcomes generally, and states that for ethics, outcomes matter above all else. A different way of saying this is that it is the consequences that matter most for ethics. This view is standardly called consequentialism. Before explaining this ethical theory in which consequences or outcomes matter most, let's look at some examples where justification is determined by outcomes only. A good case is that of quarantine. People who have a highly infectious disease are prohibited from getting close to healthy people. Typically, this meant that people in quarantine were confined to their homes or confined to some general facility. In a case, people under quarantine were not free to move about. The justification for this sort of imprisonment was based on the outcomes. By keeping the infected from interacting with the healthy, we could prevent the infection spreading to healthy people. The consequence is, or the outcome is, fewer infected people. Another example is mandatory vaccinations. The justification for requiring all the people in the population to be vaccinated, regardless of whether they wanted to be or not, is that it yields better outcomes. With everyone vaccinated, the entire population is protected. If only those who requested are vaccinated, then many more people would be vulnerable to disease. That would lead to a worse outcome or consequence. In explaining an ethical theory, it is crucial to identify what, according to that theory, is important and what, according to that theory, is not important. For consequentialism, what is important is plainly the consequences, the outcomes, the results. What is not important are things such as the motives or intentions that lead to the outcomes. The results are all that matters for ethics, according to this theory. How we got to those results doesn't matter. In other words, according to consequentialism, the end justifies the means. Let's consolidate some of what we've now learned with an exercise.